One more thing. How did Nico Harrison all of a sudden get so much power that he could just trade Luka with only getting one yes from Patrick Dumont? We talk about that and more with Tim MacMahon from ESPN on today's Locked On Mavs. One more thing.
I'm here because I have to be.
Dallas is going to get a seat at the table.
That's it. It's me versus the machine.
Nice penetrating thrust to the middle.
People forget about him.
Hot man, the hot player.
Wait. One more thing.
Yeah, welcome to the Locked On Mavs, your daily show covering the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member covering the Dallas Mavericks for 10 years. Thanks for being an everydayer, making Locked On Mavs your first listen. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code LOCKEDONNBA to get $20 off your first purchase. Today's episode, the rest of our conversation with Tim MacMahon about his book, The Wonder Boy, that he wrote before the trade and then had to write an extra chapter at the end that he'll send to you. But we got this book back in December. Isaac and I went through it. We asked him a bunch of questions, and in this one, we'll talk about how Nico Harrison got so much power with the Mavericks all of a sudden. We'll also talk about how the front office and how the Mavericks are responding to the backlash that they're receiving right now. And then, yeah, his book is dedicated to Luka, And so I asked him about that at the end, and that was pretty funny. Stick around for that. So this is our conversation with ESPN's Ben MacMahon.
You know, I remember that media day that, Scott Tomlin, director of PR, but then for a long time, we had our media day station. You stopped in to see us, and you're like, "Hey, there's some news that's going to come out later today, and it's going to affect Luka." And even then, it's like, and then Scott's stuff comes out, and Scooter leaves to go work with Dirk, and it's like, man, another one that was close with Luka. And I kind of want to look at it from Nico's angle here. You have this guy who comes in, who gets hired by Cuban to be a GM. He's never worked in an NBA front office. The sell of the team happens, and it's Nico that's probably convincing Dumont that he's going to have more power than Mark Cuban is over basketball stuff.
Well, Nico's like, hey, I actually get to be the GM.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. And like you laid out, he fires a lot of people, brings in his own people, fires a lot of people that has connections to Luka, and then he has the power to convince Dumont to trade Luka Doncic. So I guess it's just like, how did Nico get so much power, and what does his future look like?
The future is a great question. All I can tell you is that you've seen the same things I've seen as far as Dumont's voicing strong public support for him. In terms of how did he get that power, I think understanding corporate America certainly helped him manage up and helped him, establish that business relationship with Dumont, where Dumont, was like, okay, this is the guy, like he's running things. He'll report to me. We're on the same page. And then honestly, like he did earn credibility. Like I joke, it's kind of like asking Mrs. Lincoln about the play, with the Luka trade being the thing that went wrong at the play. But
they didn't get Anthony Davis back in that.
No, they didn't. But other than that, you got to say for the first 3+ years of Nico's tenure, he did a good job. Now, how many of those moves were Cuban? What influence did Dennis Lindsay have? Whatever. There's a discussion. We can speculate and all that. But the fact that, and Dumont obviously doesn't really understand the NBA or basketball or a lot of things.
No.
But so the Mavericks, it's not like they were the 12th seed at the trade deadline last year. They were an 8th seed that were like a game and a half out of 4 or 5 or whatever it was. But it didn't feel like a team that was going to go on a finals run. Right. And he and at the time, a lot of people thought he overpaid for PJ Washington. I'm talking about people I talked to around the league, and that he overpaid for Daniel Gafford because they didn't think those are the kind of moves that could elevate the Mavericks into real deal contender status. But they did. And so that bought him, I would say, or earned him some credibility. Now, where things are just really difficult to kind of wrap your head around is yes, Nico did a really good job of building a contender around this generational talent who's the face of your franchise, who everything revolves around. So then you decide to take the guy that everything revolves around and toss him to LA. And in building that contender, and it wasn't always perfect because, like the 2030 swap to the San Antonio Spurs for the Grant Williams sign and trade facilitation is rough. But in building that contender, you gave up your draft capital and first round capital in 27, 28, 29, 30. And you created a 3 to 4 year time frame now with AD obviously in his 30s, Kyrie's obviously in his 30s, Nico's own words, 3 to 4 year time frame. I ain't real good at math, but if I add 3 years to 2025, where am I? Oh, damn. I'm right when they owe a freaking unprotected swap to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Okay, if it's 4 years, where am I? Crap. The Houston Rockets have that unprotected pick now. Maybe it's, okay, 5. Then it's that swap to the San Antonio Spurs. So by your own defined time frame, your closest geographic rivals stand to benefit tremendously from the Luka trade.
You had this line in page 283. This is going to be riveting podcast content here because I want to read a line here.
Ooh, I like this. I should have had you do the freaking audiobook.
You say, Dallas already had the most important piece in place, a superstar capable of leading a team to a title when he was hired. Harrison's job was to maximize Doncic's chances of taking the Mavs to the promised land. Harrison says, it's always going to be a sense of urgency no matter what, at least how I look at it. When you come in, you have Luka. You got an MVP candidate every year. You got to surround them and give an opportunity. So I don't think it changes. It's just whether you can get it done or not. What a turn from those days.
Oof.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that was the right approach.
Yeah,
and I think that quote was in response to me asking him about the trades at the deadline last year. Me saying
it was
something along the lines of like I thought those were risky deals but think about and the discussion was like, well, you understand the motivation of the teams that are trading with you, right? Or that are facilitating the trades, especially. Like, why did OKC give you a first round pick and take back that 2028 swap? Because they're hoping Luka's not on the roster in 2028. They're projecting that you're going to fail to build around him and that it's going to get to a point where he's going to ask for a trade. And it's the same thing with the Spurs in 2030. And why did the Rockets ask for that pick, the Mavs pick, when they made that deal with the Nets, where they got all the Suns draft capital? It's the same reason they got all the Suns draft capital, because they're projecting a downslide there. So, and you successfully managed to build a contender. You successfully managed to put Luka in a position where things weren't perfect, relationships were strained in the front office, and honestly, it might have gotten to a Luka or Nico point at some point. I think, Nico cut that one off.
I wish it did.
But my point is, the Mavericks successfully eliminated the fear of Luka looking around and saying, I don't have any chance to contend for a championship. I got to go. And obviously, I think Luka has flaws. I don't think he's a perfect person. I've never seen a halo on top of his head. One thing about him, though, is he does have a strong natural sense of loyalty. And that's why I thought it was really important to, see him with his Slovenian national team, to talk to people involved with that program, to talk to his teammates, to talk to Billy Hernan Gomez, who was basically his big brother at Real Madrid. His commitment to the Slovenian national team, to me, is the perfect illustration of just how strong a sense of loyalty that he naturally has. And again, I never thought he would look for reasons to leave. There was a time, a lot of the time I was writing this book, actually, that I thought those reasons might be smacking him in the face, but you avoided that. And then you dumped him.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use that code LOCKEDONNBA to get $20 off your first purchase. I'm using these because this weekend I'm going to go see the Rangers. It's opening weekend, and we've got to go see the hopefully two-time champion Texas Rangers, according to Slightly. You can do all kinds of great things with Game Time. The reason why I used it to get my tickets is because they have Game Time picks. It filters out all the fluff, shows you only the best deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time scrolling and going through a whole bunch of things and searching. I'm gonna admit, Game Time, I'm sorry, I went and checked a bunch of other sites. I did. I went through and I did. You had done the work for me, and I went back and checked it all. I didn't trust you, Game Time. I'm sorry. I should have, because I ended up coming back to Game Time anyway, because they have super deals. They can even, the Game Time pick will highlight super deals, giving you the best bang for your buck. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code LOCKEDONNBA to get $20 off your first purchase. Could be Rangers tickets, Stars tickets, theater, comedy, concerts, anything else you want to. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem that code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Well, this book, obviously was printed before the last chapter, and you said this on the Dumb Zone with our buddy Jake, but the last line in this book is a heartbreaker. You said this is the very last line in the book before this last chapter, before the trade and everything. Luka says, "This is the franchise that drafted me. They gave me the keys. I'm just glad I'm here in Dallas."
Yeah. And people have asked me like, did you change anything in the first 18 chapters? The answer is no. And also, do you wish you did? The only thing I wish is the paragraph right before that. I talked about the Mavericks they had the most treasured commodity in the NBA, stability with a superstar. I wish I'd have just put dash, or so it seemed. That's the one tweak that I wish I could have made there.
Do you get a sense that the organization has received the backlash? Are they surprised, unfazed? We've heard Dumont say, "Oh, we didn't expect this," and that just to me is still fascinating.
Well, you saw Dumont. Are they booing me? I definitely have gotten the sense that they have no idea how to handle it. I mean, the handling of it from a PR perspective was just like shockingly messy. Booting fans for like the code of conduct violations. Like, I got to tell you, I've covered the league for a long time. This is the first time I was aware that the signs were only allowed to be a certain size. And fire Nico. What was it, like, derogatory? I don't remember the exact language. Like, you had to
be fair, they did do that for the Fire Kid. There was a Fire Kid guy too that was screaming Fire Kid, and they booted him out a couple years ago too when they missed.
Oh, okay, I missed that one. I guess they're consistent. But the PR handling has been really, really, and look, I'm not taking shots at the PR department. These are decisions that are made
top down.
Way, way, way above that. But it's been extremely messy. If you're going to make this trade, you've got to understand just how unpopular it's going to be. By the way, another reason that Nico cited himself for keeping it completely under wraps and like top secret classified information that they were in those discussions was because they didn't want to deal with the circus of the fan backlash in advance. I mean, all you did was delay the circus with that. So yeah, I think it was a gross miscalculation of what the reaction would be, but the fact they were shocked, or that they were like the fans were outraged, like, it shouldn't have been a shock. Now, and there's been Murphy's Law, right? Like AD going down in the third quarter when AD was absolutely dominant in that first half. If AD is that guy, and then, like, if they could have been healthy, and there's a whole, we can get back to a Casey Smith conversation there. If they would have been healthy, they were going to have a chance to be tough this year. I don't know if they were going to get back to the finals, but the biggest, most athletic front court in the NBA, Kyrie cooking. Yeah. I don't think it was like a perfect roster. Certainly the fear of putting too much on Kyrie's shoulders existed. But if this is a team that was rolling and was fighting for a home court advantage in the first round, I still think fans are heartbroken, but it's a different, it's a different deal. That's not what happened. Murphy's Laws punched the Mavericks in the face, and now maybe they end up in the play-in, but like we all understand, like all that does is adds an extra game to the schedule. Without Kyrie, this team has no chance of doing any kind of damage, and unfortunately, next season is going to be tough. I mean, it's unlikely Kyrie's back to start the season. Like, he might. Who knows how much he misses? We don't know. and it's going to be, it could be a tumultuous summer, to use Nico's phrase, with Kyrie. My understanding is they basically had kind of winked on, hey, we got a 3-year deal, we'll get it done this summer. How do you handle that with Kyrie recovering from a torn ACL? I don't know. I would say that after the way things went down with Luka, if you're perceived around the league to be doing Kyrie wrong, that could be pretty problematic.
When Luka comes to town, are you gonna get beers with him?
Finley will take him away from him. Take MacMahon's away.
Oh, he can't take mine away. By the way, I do think that whole, like, the Finley grabbing the beer thing, I think too much has been made out of that. I wouldn't
it's just
read
so visual.
It's so visual. I don't think Finley had any idea that it was being recorded. I don't think Finley wanted Luka necessarily chugging a beer in the hallway. But again, I wouldn't like look at that and be like, oh my God, the Mavs knew they were trading him then. Finley grabbed his beer.
It's just a metaphor is what it was. What it was. Last thing for you. The book is dedicated to your dad, your wife, and your kids. Bailey, Finley, Liam, and Luka with an H.
With an H.
Do you have to rename them now? Or what are you?
I didn't name him in the first place. I didn't meet him until he was 7 years old. He's my stepson. He is my stepson. I met him when he was 7. Great kid. Hey, I tell you what, the kid can finish with both hands. He's
there you go.
Can finish in the paint. That 3-point shot's coming along. Liam's a little lefty. The kid, like, he's had 20-point games. These guys, I got some hoopers now.
Did you take the sweet tea away from him?
They work out on their own. I don't even have to push them.
Getting grilled nuggets at Chick-fil-A.
My workout program is probably pretty similar to Luka's sometimes. So is my post-game routine. But I actually have had this conversation with Luka during some of our friendlier moments. And I mentioned that, my boy's name is Luka with an H, and he told me that it was spelled wrong. And then he claimed that I named him after Luka Doncic. And I said, well, you were like 13 years old when this kid was born. And he basically said, people knew who I was when I was 13.
That's true.
And I was like, not over here. Hey, one last thing though, since we're talking about, this is a great story. Since we're talking about my Luka, do you remember Grant Williams? You know how they send the Mavs out to like the Mavericks camps?
Yeah.
They play knockout against the kids.
Yeah.
And so Grant Williams, and we should have known it wasn't going to go well for Grant Williams in Dallas. He comes out to Mavs camp, right? And he plays knockout, and it might still be on the Mavs YouTube. He plays knockout, and he got eliminated. And in the video, he asked the kid, what's your name? And he says Luka, and he goes, oh, it had to be Luka. My kid eliminated Grant Williams.
Wow.
That's awesome.
We should have known the Grant Williams era in Dallas was going to go well after that. My kid handed Grant Williams his first L as a Maverick.
The MacMahon family ruins the Mavericks again. Tim, man, thanks so much for joining us. You can get the book, The Wonder Boy, anywhere you can get books, on Amazon and everywhere. The extra chapter too, with the more stuff about the Luka trade. Great stuff in there as always. Tim, thanks for joining us.
I really appreciate you guys having me. Adios, amigos.
Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavericks. We're a daily Dallas Mavericks podcast. Full episodes are available on any podcast platform and on YouTube. You can check out the show and follow us every single day for more Mavs content. We do every post-game show as well. You can also check the QR code for different ways to follow the show. We have a newsletter that goes out daily. We'll be here following the Dallas Mavericks daily. Whatever they do, we'll be here and have it on Locked On Mavs. Peace out. Boom!